Princess Yuna had never liked humans. She had seen them on news screens and in reports. Small creatures. Soft skin, only 2 arms. They came from a little blue planet called Earth, far away in a corner of the galaxy that nobody important cared about. Her people, the Volanthi, were better in every way. They were tall and graceful. Their skin was silver and beautiful. They had 4 strong arms and eyes that could see in the dark. The Volanthi had ruled 100 star systems for 1,000 years. Humans had only learned to travel between stars a few decades ago. So when her father, Emperor Taiho, told her that a human soldier would join her royal guard, Yuna felt her blood turn cold. "This is an insult," she said. She stood in her father's throne room, her 4 hands pressed together in anger. "The Galactic Council cannot force this on us." Emperor Taiho sat on his throne and looked tired. He was old now, and the weight of ruling showed on his face. "The Council wants peace between all species," he said. "They want humans to feel welcome. This is politics, daughter. You must accept 1 human soldier. That is all." "I do not want a primitive creature protecting me," Yuna said. "My guards are the finest warriors in the Empire. What can 1 human do that they cannot?" Her father raised 1 hand. The conversation was over. "You will accept this. You will be polite. And you will not shame our family." 3 days later, the human arrived. His name was Doan Park. He was a sergeant in Earth's United Defense Force. Yuna watched him walk into the palace courtyard, and she felt disappointment wash over her. He was exactly what she expected. Short, only 2 arms. Brown skin and black hair and dark eyes that seemed to notice everything. He wore simple gray armor, nothing like the shining blue plates her Volanthi guards wore. He carried a rifle on his back and a knife on his belt. He looked like a soldier from a poor army, which he was. Captain Ga, the leader of Yuna's personal guard, greeted him at the gate. Ga was tall and proud, with silver skin that glowed in the sunlight. She looked at the human like he was dirt on her boot. "You are the human," Ga said. It was not a question. "Yes, Captain," Dohan said. His voice was calm and flat. "Sergeant Dohan Park, reporting for duty." "I know what you are," Ga said. "You are here because the council forced us to take you. You are not one of us. You will never be one of us. Do you understand?" Dohan looked at her. He did not look away or bow his head. He just looked at her with those dark, quiet eyes. "I understand, Captain." Ga waited for him to say more. He did not. This seemed to make her angrier. "You will stand watch where I tell you. You will speak only when spoken to. You will not look at the princess. You will not speak to the princess. Am I clear?" "Yes, Captain." And so the human took his place among the royal guard. Ga gave him the worst assignments. He stood watch in empty hallways at night. He guarded doors that led nowhere. He watched over storage rooms full of old furniture. The other guards laughed at him. They called him names in the Volanthi language, words that meant animal and insect and creature. Dohan never complained. He never fought back. He simply did his job and said nothing. Yuna watched him sometimes when she walked through the palace halls. She watched him stand alone in the shadows, his back straight, his eyes forward. The other guards talked and joked with each other. Dohan stood in silence. She wondered what he was thinking. She wondered if he hated them all. One night, she found him standing watch outside a room that held nothing but old chairs. It was the most useless post in the palace. She stopped and looked at him, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "Why do you stay?" Yuna asked. She did not know why she was talking to him. She had promised herself she would not. "My guards hate you. My captain insults you every day. You stand in empty halls like a ghost. Why do you not go home?" Dohan looked at her. This was the first time they had truly looked at each other. His eyes were steady and calm, like still water. "Someone had to come, Your Highness," he said. "Someone had to show that humans can serve. I volunteered. You volunteered for this?" Yuna shook her head. "You volunteered to be hated?" "I volunteered to do my duty," Dohan said. "What others think of me does not change what I must do." Yuna did not know what to say. She had never met anyone who spoke like this. Her guards were brave, but they also loved praise and glory. This human seemed to want neither. He simply was what he was. She turned and walked away without another word. But that night, she thought about him for a long time. 1 week later, Yuna received orders from her father. She was to travel to Helix 7, a space station far from home, for a diplomatic meeting. She would take her full guard with her. "Must I take the human?" she asked Captain Jihei. Jihei's face twisted with disgust. "The council requires it. He must be seen at your side." Yuna closed her eyes and took a breath. "Fine, he will come." She did not know it then, but this decision would save her life. And it would change everything she believed about humans. The ship left for Helix 7 the next morning. Yuna sat in her private cabin and looked out at the stars. Somewhere behind her, in the lowest section of the ship, the human soldiers sat alone. Neither of them knew what was waiting for them. Helix 7 was beautiful. The space station floated at the meeting point of 12 trade routes, a shining wheel of metal and glass spinning slowly in the dock. Ships came and went from every corner of the galaxy. Merchants sold goods from 100 worlds. Diplomats made deals in quiet rooms. It was neutral ground, a place where enemies became friends and money changed hands. Yuna arrived with her guards in the afternoon. Captain Jie walked at her side, tall and proud. 20 Volanthi warriors followed behind them, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. And at the very back, almost forgotten, walked Dohan Park. The human looked around the station with careful eyes. He watched the crowds. He watched the shadows. He watched everything. None of the Volanthi guards noticed. They were too busy looking important. The diplomatic dinner was held in a great hall with windows that showed the stars. Yuna sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by ambassadors and merchants who wanted her favor. She smiled and nodded and said the right words, but her mind was tired. She wanted to go home. Captain Jie stood behind her chair with 6 guards. The rest waited outside. Dohan was posted at a side door, far from the princess, where no one would see him. This was how Jie wanted it. The attack came without warning. The first explosion shook the whole station. The windows cracked. The lights went dark. People screamed and fell to the floor. Yuna grabbed the table to keep from falling, her forearms gripping the wood. Then the second explosion came, and the third. The great hall filled with smoke and dust. Red emergency lights blinked on, making everything look like blood. Captain Jie pulled Yuna to her feet. "We must go, Your Highness, now." They ran for the main door, but before they reached it, the door exploded inward. Black armored soldiers poured through, their weapons firing. Yuna saw one of her guards fall, then another. The attackers moved fast and without mercy. Korathi. Jie screamed. The Korathi Syndicate. Yuna knew the name. The Korathi were mercenaries and killers. They fought for money and power. Her father had put their warlord in prison 5 years ago. Now they wanted revenge. Jie pushed Yuna toward a side door. "Go, I will hold them." They ran through the station, but the Korathi were everywhere. Every door they tried was locked or blocked. Every hallway brought more enemies. The station's communication system was dead. No call for help would reach the Volanthi fleet. Yuna's guards fought bravely at first. They fired their weapons and held their ground. But the Korathi were too many. And then the Ravagers came. Yuna had heard stories about Ravagers. They were monsters made in laboratories, soldiers changed into beasts through science and cruelty. They were huge, almost 3 meters tall, with arms like tree trunks and claws that could tear through metal. Their faces were masks of scars and rage. The first Ravager came through a wall like it was paper. It grabbed one of Yuna's guards and threw him across the hall. He did not get up, and then her guards began to run. First 1, then 2, then 5. They turned their backs and ran into the darkness. Yuna screamed at them to stop, but fear had taken their minds. Even warriors could break when they faced true monsters. Captain Ga stood alone against the Ravager. She fired her weapon until it was empty. The Ravager kept coming. Yuna saw something change in Jihe's eyes. She saw the captain's courage crack. And then Jihe ran too. Yuna was alone. She ran through the station without knowing where she was going. Her beautiful dress was torn. Her silver skin was covered in dust. She could hear the karate soldiers behind her calling to each other, hunting her. She was the prize they wanted. She was the reason they had come. She turned into a narrow service corridor and stopped to catch her breath. Her hearts were beating so fast she thought they might burst. This was the end, she thought. She would die here, alone and forgotten. Then she heard footsteps behind her. She spun around, ready to face her death. But it was not a Karathi soldier. It was not a Dar-a-Va-Ger. The human stood in the dim red light, his weapon in his hands. His face was calm. His breathing was steady. He did not look afraid. "Your Highness," he said. "Stay behind me." Yuna stared at him. "You did not run." "No," Doan said. "I did not." Somewhere in the station, a Ravager roared. The sound was close. The human did not flinch. He just checked his weapon and turned toward the darkness. "We need to move," he said. "Do you trust me?" Yuna looked at him for a long moment. This human, this creature, her people called primitive and weak. He was the only one who stayed. "Yes," she said. "I trust you." Doan nodded once. Then he began to walk into the darkness, and the princess of the Volanthi Empire followed the human soldier into the unknown. Dohan moved through the station like a ghost. He knew things about the station that the Volanthi guards never bothered to learn. He knew about the maintenance tunnels. He knew about the air vents. He knew how human engineers built things. And this station was built by humans. Yuna followed close behind him, her forearms pressed tight against her body. She had never been so afraid in her life. Every shadow could hide a killer. Every sound could be her death. "Where are we going?" She whispered. "Somewhere we can defend," Dohon said. "The whole station is locked down. We cannot escape. So we must survive until help comes. And if help does not come?" Dohan did not answer. He did not need to. They crawled through narrow tunnels and climbed through dark shafts. Dohan helped her over broken pipes and warned her about loose cables. His hands were gentle but strong. Yuna noticed that he never touched her more than needed. He was always careful, always respectful. After what felt like hours, they reached a corridor near the reactor room. It was narrow, with thick walls on both sides and only one way in. Dohan looked around and nodded. "Here," he said. "This is where we stand." Yuna looked at the corridor. It was just a hallway. Nothing special. "This is your plan? We just wait here?" "I will hold this corridor," Dohan said. He began to move things to block the entrance, creating cover from pipes and metal plates. "They can only come from one direction. I can see everything. If anyone wants to reach you, they must go through me." "That is insane," Yuna said. Her voice was shaking. "There are hundreds of them. There are Ravagers. You are one human with one gun." Dohan stopped working and looked at her. His eyes were calm, but she saw something else in them now. Something hard and steady, like stone. "Your Highness," he said, "I'm going to be honest with you. We will probably die here. The chances of survival are very small. But I swore an oath to protect you. I will keep that oath until my last breath. That is what I am. That is what I do." Yuna felt tears in her eyes. She did not understand this creature. Her own guards, warriors she had known for years, had run away and left her. This human, who she had treated with coldness and contempt, was ready to die for her. Why? She asked. "I have been nothing but cruel to you. Why would you die for me?" Dohan thought for a moment. Then he said, "Because it is the right thing to do." Before Yuna could respond, they heard footsteps. The Karathi had found them. The first wave came fast. 6 soldiers in black armor, their weapons firing. Dohan stepped out from cover and shot them down, one after another. His movements were smooth and quick. He did not waste a single bullet. In seconds, all 6 were dead. Yuna stared at the bodies. She had never seen anyone fight like that. It was not wild or angry. It was cold and perfect, like a machine. The second wave came with more soldiers. 8 this time. They were more careful now, using cover and firing in teams. Dohan fought them anyway. He moved from position to position, never staying still. A bullet hit his shoulder, and he grunted in pain, but he kept fighting. Blood ran down his arm. He did not stop. When the second wave was dead, Dohan leaned against the wall and pressed his hand against his wound. His face was pale, but his eyes were still focused. "Are you all right?" Yuna asked. It was a stupid question, but she did not know what else to say. "I am fine," Dohan said. "It is just a scratch." It was not just a scratch. Yuna could see that, but she said nothing. The third wave brought a ravager. The monster came through the corridor like a living nightmare. It was huge and horrible, with muscles like cables and claws like swords. It roared, and the sound shook Yuna's bones. Dohan stood up and faced it. He fired his weapon at the ravager's face, but the bullets barely slowed it down. The creature charged at him, and Dohan did something Yuna could not believe. He charged back. The human and the monster met in the middle of the corridor. The ravager swung its claws, but Dohan ducked under them. He grabbed the creature's arm and twisted. Something cracked. The ravager screamed. Dohan punched it in the throat, then the face, then the eyes. The monster threw him against the wall, but he got up again. He always got up again. They fought for what felt like forever. Dohan was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His armor was broken. One of his eyes was swelling shut. But he kept fighting. Finally, he found his knife and drove it into the ravager's neck. The monster fell. It did not get up. Dohan stood over the body, breathing hard. Blood dripped from his fingers. He looked like he might fall, but he did not. He turned around and looked at the corridor, ready for more. "How?" Yuna whispered. "How are you still standing?" Dohan picked up a fallen weapon and checked it. "Humans do not know when to quit, Your Highness," he said. His voice was rough with pain. "It is our worst trait, and our best." He limped back to his position and faced the darkness again. The princess watched him and felt something change inside her heart. She did not understand humans, but maybe, she thought, that was the point. The hours passed slowly in that corridor. Each minute felt like an hour. Each hour felt like a day. The Karathi kept coming, wave after wave. They sent soldiers, and Dohan killed them. They sent more ravagers, and Dohan killed them too. Each time, Yuna was sure it would be the end. Each time, the human found a way to survive. But the cost was terrible. Yuna watched Dohan grow weaker with every fight. His wounds were many and deep. His armor was broken and hanging off his body. His left arm hung at a strange angle, probably broken. Blood covered him like paint. Yet every time she thought he would fall, he stood back up. Every time she thought he was finished, he found something more to give. She tried to help him once, picking up a weapon from a dead soldier. Doan shook his head. "Stay behind cover," he said. "If I fall, you run. Find a place to hide. Wait for rescue. I cannot just watch you die," Yuna said. "Yes, you can," Dohan said. "You are the princess. You must survive. That is what matters." She wanted to argue, but she saw the look in his eyes. This was not about her anymore. This was about him, about what he believed, about who he was. She could not take that away from him. After what felt like forever, the attack stopped. The corridor was quiet. Bodies lay everywhere, Karathi soldiers and Ravagers both. Yuna counted them. More than 30. One human had killed more than 30 enemies. But she knew it was not over. The Karathi would not give up. They would send someone stronger. She was right. Heavy footsteps came from the darkness. Slow and steady, like the beating of a drum. A figure stepped into the red light, and Yuna felt her blood freeze. He was massive, even bigger than a Ravager. His body was half machine, with metal plates fused to his skin and wires running through his muscles. One of his arms had been replaced with a weapon, a cannon that glowed with deadly energy. His face was scarred and cruel, with eyes that held no mercy. "I am Grim," the creature said. His voice was like grinding metal. "I am the commander of this operation. And you, little human, have caused me great trouble." Dohan stood in the center of the corridor. He could barely stand. His weapon was almost out of power. But he did not step back. "Let the princess go," Dohan said. "Take me instead." Grim laughed. It was an ugly sound. You are nothing. A bug, a pest. I will crush you in seconds. But I am not without honor. I will give you a choice. Step aside, and I will let you live. The human is not our enemy. We only want the princess. Yuna held her breath. She would not blame him if he said yes. He had done enough. He had done more than enough. No one would call him a coward. Doan was silent for a long moment. Then he raised his weapon and pointed it at Grim. "No," he said. Grim stopped smiling. "Foolish," he said. "Very well. The fight was not fair. It was never meant to be fair." Grim was fresh and strong. Dohan was broken and bleeding. Grim had a weapon built into his arm. Dohan had a half-empty gun and a knife. Grim was a monster made for killing. Dohan was just a man. But Dohan fought anyway. He fired his weapon until it was empty, then threw it at Grim's face. Grim knocked it aside and swung his metal arm. Dohan ducked under it and stabbed with his knife, finding a gap in Grim's armor. The commander roared in pain and grabbed Dohan by the throat. "You cannot win," Grim said, lifting Dohan off the ground. "You are human. You are weak." Dohan kicked Grim in the face with both feet. The commander dropped him, and Dohan rolled away. He was on his feet again, in a second, blood pouring from his mouth. "I do not need to win," Dohan said. "I just need to keep you busy." They fought on. Grim hit Dohan again and again. Bones broke. Blood flew. Dohan fell and got up. Fell and got up. Fell and got up. Every time Grim thought it was over, the human found a way to stand. While Yuna watched with tears running down her face. She had never seen anything like this. She had never imagined anything like this. Finally, Dawn saw something. A control panel on the wall. A reactor vent. He fought his way toward it, taking hit after hit. When he reached it, he slammed his hand on the emergency button. Alarm screamed. The corridor filled with a wave of superheated plasma from the reactor. Grim roared and stumbled backward, his metal body burning. He retreated into the darkness, cursing and screaming. But the cost was too high. Du-Han fell to the ground. He did not get up. Yuna ran to him. She fell to her knees and gathered him in her forearms. His eyes were closed. His breathing was weak and shallow. He was dying. "No," she whispered. No. Stay with me. Help is coming. You have to hold on." Dawn opened his eyes. He looked up at her, and for the first time, he smiled. It was a small smile, tired and sad, but it was real. "Did I do good?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Yuna held him tighter. "You did good," she said. "You did so good. Now please stay alive." Dawn closed his eyes. "I will try," he said. "For you." And then he was still. Yuna held him and cried, waiting for help that might never come. The princess of the Volanthi Empire, holding a dying human soldier in her arms. She did not care about politics or species or history anymore. She only cared about him. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the sound of ships. The fleet had arrived, but she did not know if they were too late. The Volanthi fleet arrived like thunder. Warships surrounded Helix 7 and burned the Karathi vessels to dust. Soldiers stormed the station, fighting through the corridors, searching for the princess. Captain Ga led the rescue team. She had found the fleet and brought them back. She told herself it made up for running. She almost believed it. When Ga breached the reactor section, she expected to find the princess dead. That is what everyone expected. The Karathi were brutal. They did not keep prisoners alive. And the princes have been missing for 8 hours. But when the doors opened, Ga stopped. Her guards stopped. Everyone stopped. Princess Yuna stood in the middle of the corridor. Her dress was torn and covered in blood. Her silver skin was dark with smoke and dust. In her forearms, she held the unconscious body of the human soldier. And all around her, covering the floor like fallen leaves, were the bodies of the enemy. Ga counted them. More than 40 Karathi soldiers. 3 Ravagers. All dead. All killed by one human. "Your Highness," Ga said. Her voice was weak. "You are alive." Yuna looked at her. Something had changed in the princess. Her eyes were hard and cold, like ice in winter. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but it carried like thunder. "You ran," Yuna said. Ga felt her face burn with shame. "Your Highness, You ran," Yuna said again. "All of you ran. My guards, my protectors, the warriors I trusted with my life. You saw the enemy, and you ran like frightened animals. The Ravagers," Ga began. "One human killed 3 Ravagers," Yuna said. She lifted Dahan's body slightly, showing the blood and wounds. "One human, with 2 arms, with no armor, with nothing but a gun and a knife. He held this corridor for 8 hours. He killed every enemy who came for me. He nearly died protecting me. And you ran." Ga had no words. None of the guards had words. They stood in the blood-covered corridor and looked at the bodies and felt their shame like a physical weight. "Take him to the medical bay," Yuna said. "Now, if he dies because you were slow, I will never forgive you." They took Dawn. They took him to the best doctors on the fleet. The doctors looked at his wounds and shook their heads. They said it was impossible. No creature could survive that much damage. The human had broken bones, torn muscles, internal bleeding, brain trauma, and wounds that should have killed him 10 times over. But the human did not die. He held on. Hour after hour, day after day, he refused to let go. The doctors worked on him without rest. They used every technology they had. And slowly and possibly, the human began to heal. While Una stayed by his bed. She did not eat. She did not sleep. She just sat and watched and waited. Her father sent messages asking her to come home. She ignored them. Her advisors begged her to rest. She refused. 3 weeks later, Dohan opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was the princess. She was sitting in a chair beside his bed, her forearms folded, her eyes red from crying. When she saw him wake, she leaned forward and took his hand. "You are alive," she whispered. Dohan looked around. He was in a medical room, surrounded by machines and monitors. Everything hurt. But he was alive. What happened? He asked. His voice was rough and weak. "You saved me," Una said. "You saved my life. The fleet arrived after you fell. The Karathi are destroyed. Grimm is captured. And you are a hero." Dohan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The other guards. Did they survive?" "Most of them," Una said. Her voice was cold when she spoke of them. "They are not my guards anymore. I have dismissed them all. Every single one." Dohan frowned. "That seems harsh." "They abandoned me," Una said. "They broke their oath. I cannot trust them again." She paused and looked at him with those silver eyes. "I have requested a new guard detail. From Earth, humans only." Dohan stared at her. "Humans? Your people will not like that." "I do not care what my people like," Una said. "I have seen what humans can do. I have seen what courage looks like. My people talk about honor and duty, but when the moment came, they failed. You did not fail. Humans do not fail." She reached into her robe and pulled out a small badge. It was gold and silver, shaped like a star. The mark of a captain in the Royal Guard. "This is for you," she said. "If you want it, you will lead my new guard. You will be at my side, always. This is not an order. I am asking you, Dohan. Will you stay?" Dohan looked at the badge. He looked at the princess. He thought about everything that had happened, all the pain and blood and fear. He thought about the long road ahead and the challenges that would come. Then he smiled. That same small, tired smile from the corridor. "Someone has to," he said. Una laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in weeks. She put the badge in his hand and held it there. "Thank you," she said. "For everything?" Years later, people would talk about the Battle of Helix 7. They would discuss politics and alliances and the treaty that followed. They would write books about the friendship between humans and the Volanthi Empire. They would create statues and holidays and songs, but those who knew the truth told a different story. The alliance was not built on treaties. It was not built on politics. It was not built on words and promises and handshakes. It was built on blood and courage. That it was built on one soldier who did not run, and the galaxy would never be the same.